matters to you and your family.
During his first 100 days in office, President Obama has begun to take steps that reflect some of the promises he made while campaigning, including establishing stronger ties with other nations.
That's why I've ordered the closing of the detention center in Guantanamo Bay. That's why I can stand here today and say without equivocation or exception that the United States of America does not and will not torture.
It is time for us to transition to the Iraqis. They need to take responsibility for their country and for their sovereignty.
It's only by working together that we will finally defeat 21st century security threats like Al-Qaeda. So it was heartening that our NATO allies united in Strasbourg behind our strategy in Afghanistan and Pakistan and contributed important resources to support our efforts there.
While here in London, I had the opportunity to hold bilateral meetings with leaders of Russia, China, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, and India, as well as Great Britain. These discussions were extraordinarily valuable and productive. And this weekend in Prague, I will lay out an agenda to seek the goal of a world without nuclear weapons.
I came to Turkey because I'm deeply committed to rebuilding a relationship between the United States and the people of the Muslim world, one that's grounded in mutual interest and mutual respect.
The President has directed the Secretaries of State, Treasury, and Commerce to carry out the actions necessary to lift all restrictions on the ability of individuals to visit family members in Cuba and to send them remittances.
We have to crack down on drug use in our cities and towns. We have to stem the southbound flow of guns and cash. And we are absolutely committed to working in a partnership with Mexico to make sure that we are dealing with this scourge on both sides of the border.
As neighbors, we have a responsibility to each other and to our citizens. And by working together, we can take important steps forward to advance prosperity and security and liberty. That is the 21st century agenda that we come together to enact.
President Obama believes stronger foreign relations can only come from mutual responsibility, respect, interest, and efforts. That by working together, every nation will become stronger and more prosperous. But opponents see this approach as a weakness. Will President Obama succeed in his ideals of unity and global collaboration?
We'll have our panel weigh in just a moment. But first, I'd like to take a moment to welcome Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, joining us for a few minutes from his office. Senator Menendez was elected by his colleagues in 2002 to be chairman of the House Democratic Caucus, making him the highest-ranking Hispanic in congressional history. He currently serves on the Senate Committee on Banking, on Finance, Housing and Urban Affairs, Energy and Natural Resources, Budget, and Foreign Relations. Senator, welcome to Destination Casablanca.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
As you look over the last 100 days of the Obama presidency, let's talk a little bit about foreign affairs. The president made 2 highly publicized trips to Europe and to the Summit of the Americas. Overall, how do you think he did?
Well, I think he did well overall. I think he repositioned America's relationship in the world to a positive one. He certainly walked away with some commitments in Europe that are good, particularly in terms of assistance in Afghanistan, in having a unified response to the financial challenges that the world is facing right now in this global recession. In Latin America, I think he changed the nature of the view that Latin Americans have had of the United States, at least in an opening gambit.
Some of the attention that came out of the meeting in Trinidad had to do with a cordial encounter with the president of Venezuela. Do you think he handled that the right way, and do you think Americans got the right impression of it?
Well, you know, Chavez is a publicity hound. He knows what he is doing. At the end of the day, the reality is, you know, the president acted as a gentleman. What's important really is what happens moving forward. What happens in the actions that these countries take and their leaders take.
One of the themes that dominated the Summit of the Americas involved a country that wasn't even at the meetings, Cuba. And right about that time, the Obama administration changed the terms for travel for Cuban Americans who want to go to the island. You opposed him on that, didn't you?
What I had a disagreement with the president about was unlimited remittances, because the Castro regime takes 30% of every dollar that a Cuban American family sends to their family in Cuba, which is outrageous. It's usury. So I think the president should have challenged the regime and said, we'll have unlimited remittances if you will cease to have this usury rates.
During the coming OAS meeting in Honduras, one of the top agenda items is to welcome Cuba back into the organization, from which it's been banned for decades. How would you counsel the Obama administration to play on that position?
Well, I think it would be a pretty outrageous decision to allow Cuba as it exists today under the Castro regime to come back to the Organization of American States. First of all, the reason that Cuba is not part of the Organization of American States is because it doesn't meet the charter of the OAS in terms of the standards the OAS set. Several years ago, the OAS established something in addition to their founding charter called the Democratic Charter. And in that, it commits the countries that are part of the OAS to fundamental freedoms, to democracy, human rights, elections, free press, free political association, and those rights that we enjoy in the United States and that most people enjoy in the Western world. And so to allow Cuba, who Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the U.S. State Department, the United Nations, and others have clearly documented the abuses of human rights, political prisoners, the lack of basic freedoms, to come into the OAS is to make a mockery of the OAS's charter, to rip up the Democratic Charter that they passed a couple of years ago, because Cuba merely could not reach those standards. And they would also send a message to the other countries in the hemisphere, some which are teetering as to whether or not democracy is going to continue to be their course, to say it doesn't really matter, because if we let Cuba in, you can do what you want in terms of violating your people's human rights, violating democracy, not permitting fundamental liberties.